Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight, I wanted to do like an analysis or a review or reaction to like this video rant that I recently saw. I just discovered this video today. So I'm sorry, I was just really intrigued by what this guy was saying. So I say, as it fits perfectly in the topic that I've covered numerous times already, I definitely had to, do a reaction to what he was talking about. Now, the topic that I often cover here is this idea of, interracial love. And I always have to start off any discussion about interracial love is that I'm not a person who denies that people can fall in love and, get married, have children, raise a family, and this love can overcome any types of racial prejudice or what society says about these types of unions. Obviously, that's true. But I also say on the other side that there are influences going on oftentimes behind these relationships that people either subconsciously don't know. Subconsciously, well, sometimes they do know and then they deny it. Sometimes you have these influences going on and people don't even really realize that they're being influenced by these, outside forces. And Brazilians, when this discussion of racism in the United States, they always discuss how, well, since you Americans, instituted a rule where, couples couldn't marry across racial lines, that makes you the real racist country. But as I said, any country can be socially engineered into becoming what it ultimately becomes. So in the same way that the United States enforced this idea that people couldn't marry across races, in Brazil it was the opposite. The idea was to promote mixed racing, miscegenation as they would call it, but with a goal of the darker element to eventually disappear through these interracial unions, across successive generations until the descendants of the black partner eventually just, disappear into this huge just pool of mixed race people, right? So where the United States wanted to segregate the people in order to keep the white population, quote unquote, pure, uh, or the Brazilian elites wanted that the black element just simply disappear through this fusion. Either way, it is anti-black racism that is behind both policies. I see now, and I'm sure a lot of people who have seen this, you've paid attention to what's going on in the U.S. I see it as a slow Brazilianization of the United States because, first of all, you have seems like every nationality of people in the world, are in the United States. It seems, United Nations, like live. So then you have this mixture in that way, but then you have the rise of interracial unions in the United States now. This is something that's been going on for a number of years, and people have commented on this. People have seen it because, in American society that continues to be very much segregated, you're just seeing, the rise of a lot of interracial unions. It is slowly seem to be turning into Brazil. Um, Now, all of these years that Brazilian elites have promoted this idea of mixing until black people disappear, I'd say over the last 10 to 15 years, I've seen a growing discussion in Brazil's black population and community that you just didn't have before. Whereas before, just say 20 years ago, people just kind of like, we mix here. What's the problem? You Americans are the racist one because you don't mix, right? Now, I don't know. It seems like, a lot of Brazilians don't seem to understand that there is a history of mixing in the United States, even though I can say it's not as deep as what happened in Brazil or in Latin America in general, but mixing has always been a part of, American society as well. But what I'm seeing is that increasingly people are more willing to take more critical looks and observations of how, interracial unions, why they're so common in Brazil. What is the driving force behind this? And people who are willing to do that come to some conclusions like, okay, this was social engineering. They wanted us to disappear. I would say that I still run into a lot of people who don't see that. And usually people who don't see it or pretend to don't see it, they're usually the people who are in these unions. If I mention this to somebody, it's a delicate topic because people get offended when you bring something up like this. Don't bring politics into into personal relationships. When I'm saying politics, they're in relationships whether you like it or not. The way that we choose our partners, uh, the way women don't give certain men the time of day, whereas X amount of women will pursue this one type of guy that every woman wants. And a lot of men complain about how, well, I'm just an average guy. Most women are not going to be interested in me. So it's always going to be political. You can't take that away from how relationships form. I just happen to be looking at this from a perspective of race, which is, you know, that's what the blog and this video channel was all about, breaking down some of the myths that people believe about Brazil. Brazilians themselves, when you shine this mirror, it forces people to be able to look at, what's actually there rather than, what they've been taught. You know, there have been discussions, particularly in the social media era, with the rise of, before there was Facebook, there was this social network that a lot of millions of Brazilians used it. It was called Orchid. Orchid never really took off in the United States. It was big in countries like Brazil. I think it was big in India. Um, After some years, I really started following a lot of discussions that Brazilians were having in Orchid. It was just fascinating because the things that people were talking about, it was like people would believe these type of discussions didn't happen in Brazil, but it was there. And underneath this cloak of we are the world, we all just freely mix here, you saw both sides, white Brazilians and black Brazilians, talking about, if black men have such this rising pride in having black identity, then why do so many of them want to choose a partner from, the white side of the fence? This I used to freely read this among white Brazilians who they would always make it look like, hey, this is a contradiction. You're screaming out here orgulho negro or black pride, but then all of you are married to white women, or in some cases white men who are married to black women, right? So anyway, let me try to stay on point today because if I get started on a rant, I'll look up and it'll be 40 minutes and I still haven't gotten into the topic at hand. So what I'm talking about today is this video that I came across on a popular profile on Instagram. And so I call this video, or the article, I'm calling it "When the Black Man Ascends Socially." Popular comedian checks random white girls up in his DMs, right? Now, the argument has always been in Brazil that when a black man manages to leave the poverty most black Brazilians are subjected to, as he goes up that social ladder, 9 out of 10 times he's going to choose a person who is white or something close to white. And I would argue it's probably higher than 9 out of 10%. Say 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10. That's just what I've seen when you see popular black male rappers, singers, actors, businessmen or whatever. It's almost become the rule. It was a book that was written about that. It's, if he climbs that social ladder, he's definitely going to have a white woman on his elbow. And the belief, numerous Brazilian sociologists have spoken on how moving up a social ladder, black men and black women feel that having a white partner will open up more doors in their desire to move up socially, right? So before I get into this, let me also talk a little bit about the person that I'm talking about here, because be quite honest about this. I had never heard of this guy. I would say, I don't know, maybe about a decade or so ago. It might be longer. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying when I became aware that Brazilians were starting to do their own version of stand-up comedy, the first few stand-up comedy shows that I saw, they were all white Brazilian comedians. But then out of that came, black comedians also. This is an article I did back in 2018. Uma coisa de preta. It's a black thing. in front of near all black audience. Six Afro-Brazilian comics debut black stand-up comedy making light of racism, right? So out of this Coisa de Preto, there have risen a number of stars who have risen to, the ranks of stardom, we could say. I think perhaps the most well-known out of these people would be this guy, Yuri Marcel. Yuri Marcel is perhaps the most successful of all of the comics who have come out of this new genre of black comedy. Um, Guy just he blew up. Next thing you know, he was appearing on television programs. He was on popular YouTube channels, and recently he became the first black comedian in Latin America to have his own Netflix special. So, Yuri Marcel exploded. And another thing about Yuri that I noticed is that he's one of the few black men in the public spotlight who openly says, like, look, I don't date white women. I only date black women. And, I don't know if him and his girlfriend got married. I'm not sure if that actually happened officially. I think his girlfriend is the actress Jennifer Gies. They've been a couple for a number of years now, and he's, like I said, it's rare to find, upwardly mobile black men, famous, rich, who have a black wife at their side. It's just something that you don't see very often. So, Yuri is very influential in that manner. He's bringing black comedy to the mainstream, and he has a black wife. That's, this is as crazy as that sounds. That makes him a rarity. Let me take a look at a few of these articles. Now, okay, so this is the point that I'm making that I want to come back to in the video that I'm talking about today, or the article that I'm talking about today. A lot of black males who come from lower class, poor communities or favelas, the shanty towns, when they make it on the football field, the soccer field, they often, end up with white girls. Who wants to say why that is? There's a lot of factors, I'm sure, that are included in that, but it's almost just, it becomes the rule. If he ends up making a transition over to Europe, to make a lot of money, then he's probably going to be booed up with a white girl. Just like this guy, I wrote a story about him in 2020, Joao Pedro, right? He ended up in Europe. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he blew up. I hadn't heard much about him because, I'm not into sports as much as I used to be, but, it's just clear. So there's the meteoric rise of Rio football player Joao Pedro. And this is what I'm saying. He blew up first in the Brazilian leagues, and then he was called to play over in Europe. And so, this is what his girlfriend looks like. Okay. So this is what we're getting to here. Let me go back to what I was talking about. So the guy I'm talking about today is a popular comedian. And as I said, I really just discovered him today. I didn't know who he was. The internet has just opened up opportunities for a lot of people, and I'm glad to see, a lot of Black Brazilians are being able to take advantage of some of these opportunities that are out there. But what this guy said was just intriguing. Like, wow, I definitely have to talk about this. So this is his name is Rhudson Victor, and he posted a video today, and basically he was asking, who are all these random white girls that's popping up in his DMs, right? So he's another public figure he speaks on Black representation. He says, we are breaking paradigms. We're breaking all the prejudices that exist behind a Black man. The prejudice against the Black male, the stereotypes against Black Brazilians in general. It's not something that can be denied. If you hang out in Brazil for any amount of time and you just listen to some of the sayings that people say, some of the jokes that people make, it's clear who people look at as, the underclass, all of the racial stereotypes about Black Brazilians, right? So let me see, what is it? Rhudson Victor, he is the new member of the Rede BBB, and he says that the favela is winning. So Rede BBB, that's he became a reporter in one of the particular seasons of the ever popular reality show Big Brother Brazil. So this is the comedian. And it's just talking a little bit about his rise to fame. Just, doing his little skits online. He got famous off of that. Next thing you know, he's doing like a report show that talks about, what happened on the latest episode of Big Brother Brazil. And he blew up that way. So this is who I'm talking about today. So he's his birthday, he was born in 1997. He's a comedian. He's from the city of São João de Meriti in the state of Rio de Janeiro. And as I said, he became a reporter on the Big Brother Brazil reality show. Okay. So Rhudson Victor is a comedian and screenwriter. He started having success with funny videos about daily life for social networks, which earned him invitations to participate in TV shows such as É de Casa on Brazil's top television network, Global, and comedians shows around the country, in addition to launching his own stand-up. Okay, so this is Casa da Comédia Carioca, like basically the Rio Comedy House is what that basically means, stand-up comedy. So, specifically Black folks doing stand-up comedy, in Brazil. In 2021, he joined the team of hosts and reporters of the BBB network, focused on covering Big Brother Brazil on the web. Okay, so let's get into what he was talking about, because I have a number of links that will give a little bit of context of why he felt the need to go online and go on this rant that he went on, and then what people said behind what he was talking about. So let me get into this real quick. I'm going to overdub in English for viewers so you can understand what he's talking about. Guys, check this out. I have received messages from some random white girls who have nothing to do with my life, who know nothing about me, nothing about my history, know what I'm saying? I'm dating now, and then these girls keep getting at me, man. My contact email is from an agency, you know what I'm saying? Introducing themselves as a famous name, like I'm the producer for the host Marcos Mion. I'm a producer for the popular promoter Carol Sampaio. You know what I'm saying? What the hell is this, dude? If you want to work with me, don't come and hit me on my WhatsApp knowing that I'm dating. I am dating. I am married. Stop being unethical, girl. Look, the famous people, dude, for the love of God, man, take the view of who you're hiring, dude. You know what I'm saying? Because to give opportunities to Black people, there's no way. You just keep putting white people in this thing so that this can happen. I work, and it's disrespectful to me, to my girl, to the company you work for. If you work for all this, dude, respect the person you're working for. Stop putting the name of the people out there. And the problem that's yours, you know what I'm saying, man. Stop getting the number of the others you want to get with in the agency mailing, which is professional stuff, That's what I have to say. And I'm not that kid there, bro, who's going to fall into a messy situation with a white girl, knowing there's a Black woman who works, who goes to school, who's smart, who's going out with me. I'm not going to fall for that child. So I'll let you know if you get in touch with me to clown around and send me news to do whatever, I'll expose you. I'll expose you here. I will expose your face. I'll expose your nude pics. I will expose the whole effing thing that I'm not obligated. Okay, so you heard what he said there. What is he talking about? Basically, he's saying that he's moving up in his career, and suddenly he's starting to get these direct messages coming at him from these random white girls, right? They're coming at him, talking about the connections that they have. They can do this for him, do that for him. They're sending him nude pics. They're sending him, all types of sexual messages or whatever. And he's telling them like, look, I'm with somebody. I'm with a Black woman. I'm not about to get mixed up in some type of mess, messing around with some white girls, right? That's intriguing, because this is something that we see all the time. In all the years that I've been going to Brazil, that's one thing that I constantly hear from one person or another. Just several stories. One story I remember hearing, I won't mention this soccer player's name, but in Zona Norte, the North Zone of Sao Paulo, where I was living, people would consistently tell me, every now and then you would see this big car pull up in the neighborhood, and it was this girl who grew up in the neighborhood with all the rest of the people. And people were smiley, how you been? How's it going? Because she was married to this was a white girl married to this rich Black soccer player. And everybody was, smiles and giggles and all of that stuff. But when she'll pull off, people would tell me, well, we grew up with her. And we know that when she was younger, she wouldn't deal with any Black guys. She just wasn't interested in Black guys. She wasn't attracted to them. But here she gets a chance to get with a guy who's rich, a rich Black man. And all of a sudden, okay, she's dating a Black man. She married him, and she's living a life of luxury now. I've heard that story more than a couple of times. So, my view on the whole thing is that when you really look at it, white women have the option of getting what they'll call a high value man If they can't get the white one, then they can always go to the other side and get with a black guy who may be at the top of his game, who might be, rich, the few that might be out there. And she'll have two opportunities to get with a rich guy. If she can't get with the white guy she wants, she can go out and get a black guy who's at the top of his game. And, she'll take away one of the black men that might be available for a black woman. But then again, we can't always say that because, there's another story that I put out some years ago, how one of these black men in Rio exposed the fact, like, yeah, we're brought up in our neighborhood to, prefer white women. So who would say that any of these black men would have been meant for a black woman anyway? That, that's something that's ongoing discussion. It never gets tiring to read about this, right? Um, and so some people believe that white men and white women in Brazil have this type of attitude, like, of course you want to get with me because I'm at the top of the racial hierarchy, right? Let me pull in a couple of these articles that somebody was talking about this, and the name of this article was from 2018. It says, how do you prefer a black over a white? The act of breaking our racial submission by loving our own. And so what this article is talking about is, again, the necessity that Black Brazilians need to develop of finding respect, love, and adoration of their equals instead of automatically just falling into this thing of, I have to have a white partner at my side. So this was an intriguing piece right here. So I'm going to just read this little paragraph right here. It says that whites are angry not because love among blacks excludes them from the receptive end of affection, but rather because it breaks our function of effective sexual bondage to them. In the structure that guarantees to the white a place of power and that gives blacks the place of submission, what causes radicalism in this statement is not whether relationships between different races is right or even on how this love is constructed. The revolt comes from the fact that for whites, the right of choice is given by whoever has power. And by us subverting this white logic, it is possible to observe the real root of the questioning of the white, which is, in fact, how do you dare not choose one of us? How do you prefer a black over a white? That's a strong statement right there, because this person, what Nana Haiza or Haiza, she's questioning this because she can feel not only from black people having an adoration and a preference for white partners that's been, they've been indoctrinated with this probably all their lives, but she also feels from white people this type of superiority complex that says, well, how dare you in your dating choices have a preference for your side rather than the white side. There's a lot. This entire article, it was just, I would, for any Black Brazilian, this would be considered radical. It is from this website off of medium.com called Revista Okoto. Love that website because these people, this group of writers at this online magazine, they really do get it. You don't find this many hardcore, like, nationalistic Black Brazilians as you find at this magazine online. It's, this picture I chose right here is the actor singer Jonathan Azevedo with his then girlfriend, singer dancer Lelezinha. People were quick to celebrate this as another example of Black love because Black Brazilians are always looking for prominent Black couples to give them some representation. But this relationship fizzled out, seemed like almost as soon as it started. And next thing you know, he was with this white girl. He had a child with her. So this is what I'm saying about what's going on there. It's like people want to see this representation, but it just seems that whatever Black male or Black female gets into the public spotlight, they're always going to be booed up with a white person, a white partner, right? This is actually Yuri Marcel, the comedian I was just talking about. He's making a joke about the term palmitagem or palmitar. Understand the term used when Black people choose white partners is what this article should actually say. And he's making fun of this. Again, Yuri Marcel is one of the few prominent Black Brazilians who openly says, look, I only date Black women. And he's holding a jar of palmita, or what they call hearts of palm. So the term palmitagem or palmiteiro comes out of the term palmito. So he's hugging this jar of palmito as to say, oh my God, I adore this whiteness, which is where the term comes from. He's making light of the fact of what palmitaging means. It means Black people who have this adoration for whiteness, right? But, for long-term relationships. This is actress Luana Xavier, and she's speaking on interracial love. She says, what is missing in me? So this is Luana, and she has some choice words to say about it seeming like Black men always pass over Black women to get with white girls, right? She says, with much courage, let's see, Luana speaks in her video of little more than 2 minutes. So she posted a video. She was talking about the behavior of the Black man, that when he socially ascends, he enters relationships with white women, but doesn't spare reflections on what types of Black men these white women are interested in. Quote, I understand they fall in love with ours, talking about how they, white women, fall in love with our men. But my question is, why do they fall in love with our best, the most studious, the most successful, the most well-connected and fun? Over time, I was forced to understand that in return, they fall in love with them too, says the actress. So she's asking, okay, why is it that you guys seem to always want to take the cream of the crop of the Black men that they have in Brazil? That's what she's asking. A lot of Black women over the years have asked a question like, would you be dating this guy if he was a street sweeper? If he was if he was a security guard or something, would you be interested in this Black man? Then you have something that we see every 4 years. The whitening process, transfer of Black money continues. This was from 2018, where a friend of mine who did this book, I think his name is Habib, he sent me this article and asked me to post. He says 76% of Brazil's World Cup stars marry white women. Is love really colorblind? And so this is, we kind of collaborated on this. He wrote the text, but I put the pictures in here. And every year, you see that every 4 years when you look at Brazil's, what they call the seleção, you always see the same thing. Okay. The loneliness of the Black intellectual. Why do Blacks ascending to positions of better socioeconomic stability almost without exception opt for a family with whites? So, if I say this, people will say I'm just a racist American, but Black Brazilians are starting to see this pattern and they're having discussions about it. They say almost without exception, keywords there. A masculine status, the social obligation of the Brazilian man to show off a white wife with whom to start a family. Not even, maybe one day I'll cover this article as well, but the title says it all. Here, yes, interracial love does exist, but some Black people use white people as a social passport to feel more accepted, according to social influencer. This is popular singer Mumuzinho, who had got married. I think they're divorced. I'm not sure. But, it made all of the popular magazines, well, another top Black singer who chose a white partner. Now, this guy here that I looked at his comment. This is Alan Soares. He and his partner, I think they're a couple now, but Nina Silva and this guy, they have a movement called the Black Money Movement, the Movimento Black Money, they call it. And Alan Soares and Nina Silva, they often talk about the necessity of Black people not only pooling their resources together, but also marrying other Blacks. Let me see, where can I say here? Okay, I like this quote right here. He says, I have news for you. If you have money and your children are born white, there is a great chance that they will be the owners of tomorrow's system of oppression. So if you've made it this far, comment, put out your point of view, and invite other friends to debate the issue. So what he's saying is that, and this is my opinion as well. It's like, how do you complain about racism when so many of you seem to be lining up just to marry white and watch everything that you gained over, in your career, your ability to be able to ascend socially, and you give it all right back to the people you accuse of being racist? It's just something I can't really understand. Then you have Luana Safiri of Revista Ebony Brazil, which means Ebony Magazine Brazil. And she's actually the woman who's going to comment on the article that I'm doing today. And this is what she had to say on the matter. She says, interracial love exists, and you need to respect this too. Stop questioning people's interracial relationships and understand that there is a recreational racism that affects Afrocentric behavior and relationships as well. Racism that brought guidelines such as the solitude or the loneliness of Black women. But before any approach to that topic, remember that true love is interest-free, and the palmiteiros, those people who have a predilection for choosing white partners, they have no love for their partner. What she really has is interest. Palmiteiros use white people as a social passport to feel more accepted. And that's where there are a lot of unhappy blacks out there. All right. Couldn't have said it better myself. Again, this is Alan Suarez. He's the founder of the Black Money Movement, along with Nina Silva. You see, he's very much connected to, studying Marcus Garvey. Why do black soccer players who denounce experiences with racism always seem to have white wives? This was something that I noticed back in 2014. These two guys both had big stories that came out about the racism they experienced on the soccer field. And just coincidentally, they were both married to white women. And then you had this goalie named Aranya, big, tall, black goalie. And, he complained about somebody calling him monkey from the stands. And then, then he was married to a white woman. So it's just like, man, what's going on in Brazil? You just have to ask the question. So, and then for those who say, well, why are you bringing in race problems where they don't exist? We Brazilians, we all mix. What's the problem? Well, the problem is just because people marry, date, have children across racial boundaries, it does not mean that the racism doesn't exist. This article is from 2014, and the mixed girl in this who's talking here, she realized that her mother was very racist with her black father. Her father, he managed to go to college and get a middle class lifestyle, and he married a white woman who I don't even think she finished, elementary school. But just her white skin was enough for him to feel like he could climb social ladders with this white woman on his elbow. But even so, being married to a black man doesn't mean she's free of racism. It just she saw him as a meal ticket, a way of getting out of poverty. She freely called him monkey. And, the mixed girl who was born from this relationship didn't really realize that until she got older, how racist her mother was towards her father. You hear this story, you hear these type of stories all the time. So let's get it out of our heads that, racism doesn't exist simply because it's an interracial couple. Okay. Now, so what did people say about his rant? Let's check it out. So this comes courtesy of the Revista Ebno Brazil Instagram page. And I just wanted to share a few of the comments that came out of what he said, about these random white girls popping up in his DMs, right? So Luana Safidi, who is the creator of the Revista Ebno, this is her talking right here. She says, straight talk. He left the black woman's heart here until it was warm. When the black man ascends socially, what happens a lot is this. White women who, even though they know they have a commitment and a serious relationship, continue to surround them and try in every way to seduce these men who happen to have social value for them. They use names considered to be influential as if this gives them a direct passport to a seat at the negão, the big black man. It's about offering crumbs to seduce whom they believe is content with little. That you need to imply that only because you have contacts and so, this may favor you. This even reminds me of the so-called sofa test, or, a couch test, which has been talked about a lot throughout life within the artistic area. We know what that means, people on the casting couch, and you know what that means. If you don't know, look it up. The same boy who is usually humiliated like Cirilo in school, when he grows up and gets some kind of space and place of visibility in society, they want to jump on top of them, right? So this reference to Cirilo, I did a video on this a couple of days ago. Cirilo was the little black boy in this kid's novella called Carrossel. And he was infatuated with this young white girl on the show who continuously humiliated him on that show. And somebody, a professor in the United States, a Brazilian lady, Daniela Gomez, she labeled this Cirilo's syndrome, when black guys would do anything for the love of a white girl, even, going through just embarrassing and humiliating situations, as what happened with this character on this TV show. Many not only attack and try in every way to overthrow the black woman who is next to them, but they are also able to invent the worst atrocities because they are rejected by a black person. Listen to that. So they're going to, raise a fuss and, make a stink because they were rejected by the black guy that was going after. Or worse, They try to get revenge for not accepting that this man decided to keep his black woman. Hmm. Working in the arts for years, especially behind the scenes, gives me the right to talk about it. So Luana is saying here she's seen this. She's personally seen this working behind the scenes and seeing the activities that go on and all of the games. Of course, there is an interracial relationship of immense love and affection, but there is also a social strategy that love between Black people does not exist, which is what I would argue that Brazilian elites have put this in place for hundreds of years. Like, we don't want to see love between a Black man and a Black woman if we hope to get rid of them through mixing. Makes a lot of sense, right? There are several layers on this agenda, which I, Luana Safir, could teach. But I think that at this moment, the positioning of Rhudson Victor impacted me so positively that I think all the attention on this subject is valid for him now. May it serve as an example to others in the sense of whether they are really being courted for your character or by who you are and what you can offer. Think about that for a minute. Are they after you for you? Or are they after you for the riches that you have and who you are as a prominent person, with access to, definitely some money? Black men, just like Black women, are not sexual objects. Okay. This is a well-known stereotype in Brazil. Anyway, I applaud the stance of this man and talented artist. Okay. So what did the people say? The first comment actually came from Nina Silva, and this is what I was telling you about. She and this guy, Alan Suarez, this is Nina Silva. She's one of the founders of the Movimento Black Money. Just, talking to Black people about, look, we need to pool our resources. We need to buy Black. We need to support each other. We need to build Black families. This is Nina Silva. Okay. So this is her comment. She says, straight up, honest, professional. The second comment says, first Black man I see saying that, appraising the Black woman and rejecting the blonde. It's a miracle. So that's what I'm saying. You don't hear many Black men speak out this way when it comes to white women pursuing them. I actually recorded a video while I was in Sao Paulo where this guy was saying to me, well, what if it's not a thing of Black men always pursuing white women, but actually white women pursuing Black men? Yeah, he could have a point there. Next one says, finally, one that is on reality, one less sellout. Stop being a fetish for whites. This video even improved my bronchitis. That's funny. Next, the next person says, he's talking about his Black woman. Next comment says, a reference for the Black man. There is still a thread of hope. So you see in these comments that people are calling this a miracle. He's a reference for Black men because you just, as I've said this throughout, you don't hear many Black men speaking openly about this. The stereotype often goes that a Black man who's poor sticks with his Black woman, but as soon as he gets some money and some status, he ditches her and gets with the white girl. So this is what she's saying. This guy's a reference for a Black man, and because of him, she still sees that there's a thread of hope. Right. Next comment: straight and right talk for these white women who live the Princess Isabel syndrome. They trivialize and hypersexualize the bodies of Black men and promote the eradication of Afrocentric families. Congratulations on your positioning. She said the Princess Isabel syndrome. Princess Isabel was the woman who signed into law the Golden Law, which ended slavery in Brazil on May 13th, 1888. So she's saying these white women who are lusting after these Black men have some type of Princess Isabel syndrome. Next comment says, he came big. Next comment says, boy from heaven, God bless you. I'm tired of these Black men or pretos who only want brancas or white women. So as you can see, this is something that Black Brazilian women have been saying for years. How wonderful to hear you. Next comment says, what a perfect video. I want my boy to make one also. Next one says, congratulations, Pretinho or Black guy. You shown and happy. For your Black girl, there is no greater proof of love. Last comment, giant, big, and conscious. Could it be that if he were a street sweeper or a construction worker, would these women have the same commitment to wanting to be on top of this Black man, especially if he was committed? If I'm not mistaken, I think this comment actually had 88 likes. So want to get an idea of what you guys think about this. I just thought that, what he said it was bomb. I had to cover this because, like I said, you don't find you find occasionally a black guy who will speak like this, but just you just don't hear very many. You know, the point is that a lot of black men have been socialized to prefer white women as soon as they can get their hands on one, right? So hearing what this guy had to say, you got to say it's almost like revolutionary what he had to say. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to end this video right here. Just definitely, leave a comment in the comment section there. Consider subscribing to this channel, like this video, share this video, comment on this video, click on that notification bell so that you'll be one of the first to receive, to see my new videos when they go up. And with that said, I'm going to close this video here and ask that you come check out the next one.